What up, metas? We're gonna do a little bit of talking today about leveling in Once Human, because if this is your first go around, or for many of us our second, third, fourth, sometimes even fifth go around of playing through the Once Human storyline and leveling up to 50, well, you've kind of seen everything that the game has to offer at this point on the current map. Now they have told us another map is coming out in October, which I'm very excited about to see, you know, what they come up with in terms of new content, but we don't even really know how that's going to roll out. It could be that we go through the same low level zones, but instead of coming up here, we come over here, right, and do like 40 and 50 over here. Or it could be a totally new map with all of this stuff being new. We don't really know yet. They haven't really said. All we really know is this is going to be a snowy biome, and survival elements are going to be a little bit different. But there are some good things to know in terms of leveling and tips and things like that to get you through this leveling process, I think, a little bit easier. And the first one is sort of become well known at this point, but just in case you haven't heard of it, is called salt farming. Basically, it's where you build your base next to the ocean, which there is plenty of oceanfront property to be had anywhere along any of this kind of territory. This is where I used to be down here, where my friend's base, Pew Pew Badger, is still at. You know, anywhere along this coastal area. Heart Island used to be one of my favorite places to start. You could easily do it on Heart Island. It's completely surrounded by, you know, ocean water. You can come down here down south. Really, there's no bad spot as long as you have access to the ocean. And then you just basically build yourself a bunch of stoves. And what do? Well, you make salt. You just make a lot of salt. And you set up some pumps, and you pump salt water into drums and just amass salt water, which I'll show you outside my base here real quick, just in case you're unfamiliar with what pumps and stuff are like. Which actually I think my pumps, despawned because I moved my base just recently, and they tend to disappear when you move your base for whatever reason. But they were right here, right? And you can see all my drums I had set up pumping, you know, right into the drums. I just need to get them reset up. Over here, I don't think it technically, yeah, this is a river, so this doesn't actually count as salt water, which is fine, but I'm done doing the salt farming. I don't really want to do it anymore. But I just had a couple of pumps down here with a water pump to bring it up, which I'll show you. There it is, the water pump to pump it up from here, because everything in Once Human, if you didn't know already, just as a side tip, everything physics applies. So if you're trying to pump water from down here up into a drum, even though this isn't very far, you need something to pull it up, so you're gonna have to use a water pump. But if you're using like a rain catcher, like that's up here, and it comes down into these drums, you don't need a pump, right? Because water can flow down all on its own. It doesn't need a pump. But of course, this doesn't work with rain catchers, because fresh water is not what you need. You need ocean water pumped from the ocean. So you'll make a couple of pumps down here. You'll put a water pump on the side here to move it up into the drums, and you'll just fill these drums, and then you can just come over here and pump out salt water, which I still have a good amount in the drum, so I can kind of show you what that looks like if you're not familiar already. See, I've got like still 3600 seawater left from before I moved my base, and you just craft them up and queue them up. Now, in order to make this truly effective, you're probably going to want to have quite a few stoves, and you're going to need these tier 2 stoves ideally to do it with, which is not very far down the tree. Doesn't take very long to get them. It's one of the earlier recipes. Right down here, the electric stove. So as you can see, it's not very far down the tree. And you know, the other stuff that you'll need over here, the water storage drums, water pumps here with your actual water pump facility, and your powered water pump to move the stuff in your drum. All that stuff's right here. It's all within the first couple of nodes. You really don't have to invest very much at all. And what's also neat about this is if you're playing with your friends and you've got a nice little hive going, you can put all your bases next to each other, and everybody can do this setup, and everybody can drop down stoves, and then you can just go in between each other's bases and queue up a bunch of salt water and grab a bunch of salt off and just do it again. Now, this is a really good way to level in and of itself. If this is all you want to do, if you just want to sit here and do salt water, maybe you want to be, you know, semi AFK, or you're going to be like doing some chores around the house, or you just want to watch anime or a movie or something like that. You just want to be idle, right? Like you don't really want to have to focus too much on the game. You can 100% do this. Just queue all these up and then just wait, you know, and you can see it doesn't take very long for this stuff to be done. Now, if you can move up to a tier 3 stove, it's even better because it will cook 2 at a time. But that's a fair ways down the tree, right? Like that's a quite a bit more investment and materials to get to this point. But if you're looking to like power through the last, you know, 10 levels or so, and you want to keep this going, that's something you can consider, as well as going up to the kitchen set and increasing the speed and efficiency of this even more. But like when we were at our peak kind of doing this as a passive activity, there was like 4 of us down here in this little cove, all right next to each other. It was really easy to just run between each other's bases and grab salt off of each other's stoves and just craft more. Because if you didn't know already, when somebody queues up something on a bench like this, it only takes up their version of the crafting bench, right? So like if my friend comes in here and queues up a whole stack of salt, it doesn't prevent me from queuing up a stack of salt because I don't see his crafts. Each person has their own individual instance of the crafting bench. So you could share these and move between each other's bases and have like 10 in each base or 20 in each base and really ramp up your production without interfering with each other's ability to utilize this process. And this has become really well known out there amongst the sort of power leveling, power gaming kind of side of Once Human that want to level as quickly as possible. And it's really effective. Now I'm only level 38. I'm not max level yet, but I don't really want to power level through all of it. I do need to go through and get materials and run some of the silos and stuff like that for cradle upgrades and all that stuff anyway. So I'm not going to power level the whole way. But what's nice about it as well is even if you don't want to power level the whole way, you can come back to your base every so often, go ahead and queue all these up, and then just go out and do your adventuring like normal, and then just come back and grab them in between when you come back to dump your normal supplies anyway. And then you're just being like doubly efficient. And what's nice about this is, particularly if you're on the hard mode server where things are a little bit tougher and some of the enemies are a little bit more deadly, is that you keep yourself in a nice position where you're like a few levels ahead of the actual content you're doing. So you're a little bit stronger, and you could probably even bump yourself up a little bit where you could be using like a tier 3 weapon in a tier 2 zone, right? Giving yourself that significant boost to be able to get through the content with, you know, less deaths, you know, less hassle and stuff like that. You just keep yourself a little bit ahead of the curve of the content and craft a little bit ahead. And it makes it easy to dip into a zone and grab some materials just so you can craft your weapon and come back down, and then, you know, run through these little towns and stuff like that to get your rifts and stuff like that. That way you can do the boss and kind of progress, right? Like it speeds up your progression quite a bit, really. Another nice thing to know, in addition to salt farming, if you're not already aware, is the fact that they added a really nice feature with the last, or I should say the new season, where you can choose to play the game in sort of a simplified mode, where you don't have to replay all the story stuff and you don't have to replay all the side quests you did, provided you did them in the past, right? So these side quests that you may have been avoiding for a while, as I avoided a fair amount of them last time because I was on vacation for a lot of the beginning of the last server and I didn't feel like I had time to do all these side quests. They're worth doing at least once, because if you come back through on a new wipe, they won't make you do the whole quest again. You'll just go up to an NPC that would have given you the quest, and it'll say, you know, there's a leak of source, and you'll just sort of channel on that NPC for a second, and you'll get all the rewards immediately. So you'll just get all these rewards without having to actually do the quest. So it's worth doing all these side quests at least once, if for no other reason than to get the planulas and the cortexes very, very easy when you come back through the server again. Now, the XP and the energy links are also nice, but for sure the planula and the cortexes are absolutely worth doing all the side quests for, especially because, like, say you won't ever have to do them a second time. So consider doing all those if you haven't done them already. If you've been skipping them like I did in the past just because I didn't really have time, make time now and save yourself the hassle later. Now, they, as I said before, they have told us we're going to get a new map in October for PvE and September for PvP, but we don't know what all is going to be involved in that. So if they reuse some of these low level zones, for example, again, doing all these side quests is still going to be worth it. But even if it's a totally new map and like we end up like, I don't know, somewhere up here in the north or northwest or some area up here, and we don't even come back to these zones, eventually a season is probably going to take place in this area again, right? Like there's only so much map, you know, there's probably, you know, based on the size of these low level zones, maybe, you know, another 4 or 5 zones up here. And if they build this out a little bit, you know, maybe another couple zones over here. Like, unless they plan on drastically expanding the size of this map, there's only so many zones that they can use. So more than likely, different seasons are going to come back here again. So doing all those side quests is going to pay off for you. And using methods like this, again, we don't know how much ocean there's going to be up in these zones, but I mean, you can see there's ocean on the border up here. And again, if they reuse these bottom zones, these low level zones, perhaps, there's plenty of ocean down here. So these techniques will serve you going forward. They do help give you that little bit of initial boost in the beginning, and they don't really require much in terms of investment or anything to set up. You don't even have to have a fully up and functioning base. All you need is a little bit of power, a couple of stoves, and like a pump, right? Like you can do that within the first 10 levels easily and start boosting your leveling significantly. So those are 2 tips that I wanted to share in terms of leveling and progressing in Once Human, doing the salt farming, and how doing the side quest is now definitely worth it with this skip feature now available. You only have to do them one time to help you guys out as we start rolling into these later seasons, because a lot of this content is going to get a little bit repetitive, you know, and we kind of just want to, if you're like me and you're coming into like another one of these 6-8 week server kind of situations, you're probably going to want to just get to the max level and then wait for the server to progress and get sort of just in a holding pattern until pro mode comes along. Or if you're on a PvP server, you're probably just going to be waiting for the warband stuff to open up the way you can actually do PvP and fight over the objectives and stuff like that. And you're not really going to want to spend a ton of time redoing a lot of this PvE content over and over and over again. So hopefully those tips help you out a little bit. Like I say, this information has gotten to a point where I feel like it's pretty well known, but I wanted to go ahead and put out a video on it anyway, just to let maybe some people out there who are new coming into the game and might not know this stuff yet, future seasons and stuff like that. And if this did help you out, please consider dropping a like, dropping down a comment below, letting us know that it helped you, and maybe even subscribing to the channel to support what we do here. We're trying to do lots and lots of Once Human content. Very much looking forward to pumping out lots of new videos when the new server content comes out. I hope to see you guys out there. If you see me in game, feel free to say hello, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And as always, happy hunting out there.